the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele.
Godwin Emefiele. Godwin Emefiele.
It was February 2014 and Goodluck Jonathan had just over a year left in office when something troubling happened in Abuja, the federal capital of Nigeria. This even brought economic activities in the country to a halt. No, I don't mean like markets were closed or something, but foreign players in the economy, money markets, and all forex activities came to a crashing halt as there was uncertainty in the air. President Jonathan had announced the suspension of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Malam Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, who was in Niger attending a meeting of top officials. About 2 months before this decision to axe Sanusi, Jonathan had reportedly told the CBN Governor to resign his position, and order Sanusi refused to obey. Now, ordinarily, the president does not have the power to sack the central bank governor. Only the National Assembly can do this. But this was a special situation and it was handled in a special way. The question, however, is what really happened? Earlier that month, Mr. Sanusi had told a Senate committee that out of $67 billion of oil sold between January 2012 and July 2013, $20 billion could not be accounted for. The NNPC denied those allegations and accused Sanusi of lack of knowledge of how the oil markets work. Mr. Sanusi, who was widely respected for his reforms in the banking sector, was even named Central Bank Governor of the Year for 2010 by Banker magazine. But here he was being suspended for what Jonathan's administration called breaches of enabling laws, due process, and mandate of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Sanusi was also accused of various acts of financial recklessness and misconduct, and quote, far-reaching irregularities, whatever the hell that meant. According to Mr. Sanusi, his only crime was violating one of the 48 laws of power, the 19th law, do not offend the wrong person. A law the character of our story today has broken a dozen times over, but somehow, just like legendary Diego Maradona, he has managed to dribble his way around the wolves out to get him. This is the inside story of Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor who is succeeding where Lamido Sanusi failed.
The total asset of the banking industry today is about 71 or 71.5 trillion.
Following the removal of Lamido Sanusi as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria in 2014, his most senior deputy, Dr. Sarah Alade, took over as acting chair until another prominent and well-respected banker was nominated for the position by the outgoing Goodluck Jonathan. This is Godwin Emefiele, arguably one of the most popular men in Nigeria in 2023. But before he was picked as CBN governor, he used to be the CEO and group managing director of Zenith Bank. When Emefiele arrived at the CBN, he made sure it wasn't business as usual. He introduced some government currency intervention policies that saw the central bank pump billions of dollars into the foreign exchange market. This was done in an effort to prop up the Nigerian naira. Emefiele would also go on to introduce the multiple exchange rate regime in another effort to mask pressure on the naira. This is why we now have official rate of the dollar as well as the black market rate. This policy is usually used in times of economic turmoil by governments to quickly implement control over foreign currency transactions. Oh, come on. We didn't come here to learn about Emefiele's policies, right? So let's get into the story of the man and his many scandals. Godwin Emefiele is not just a banker and economist with eyes on some boring economic policies. It turns out he is some sort of a businessman. As reported by Premium Times in November 2017, Godwin Emefiele is a shareholder in at least 3 companies. The report claims that Emefiele co-owns 50,000 bearer shares with Jim Ovia in the offshore company Vitesse Asset Management. This business was founded in 2007 in Switzerland. He also has a stake in Ovation Asset Management Limited, a company founded in 2009 with its headquarters in Bermuda. In this case, he is said to be the owner of 49% of shares. In another report on his businesses, it is stated that he owns all of the shares of Ovation Limited, which was established in 2012 and is based on the Isle of Man. All these companies are located in tax havens where there is little to no tax at all. And while there are rumors that the CBN governor earns 9 million naira as salary, there is still no known figure when the question of Emefiele's personal fortune is raised. Some say he's worth $2 million, others say $50 million, but it's all speculation. However, something that is known for a fact is that Godwin Emefiele had enough money saved up in his coffers to afford the 100 million naira presidential nomination form of the ruling All Progressive Congress, the APC. No, he didn't buy the form himself, but yes, he said he will when he decides to contest. Emphasis on when. And this brings us to the beginning of all of Emefiele's troubles. You see, early in 2022, there were rumors that the sitting CBN governor was nursing a presidential ambition on the platform of the All Progressive Congress, that is the ruling party. It was absurd. The idea alone got a lot of prominent people talking. The CBN was supposed to stay clear of partisan politics, but here is the governor wanting to run for the highest office in the land under the umbrella of the ruling party. Emefiele's political ambition was in violation of the CBN Act. Remember how someone from the beginning of our story got removed, or should I say suspended, for alleged breaches of enabling laws, due process, and mandates of the Central Bank of Nigeria? Well, prominent figures started calling for Emefiele to resign or be fired from his position. While the rumors were being dismissed by the CBN, some group of farmers and support groups reportedly spent a whopping 100 million naira to purchase the form for Emefiele. So it eventually happened. It was no longer a rumor, it was happening. But Emefiele, in response to all the criticism that followed, said he was yet to decide on the issue. He thanked those who raised money to do this for him, but he said he would buy the form with his own money when he decides to contest. So if Emefiele was not thinking about the ambition before now it appears he was actually pursuing it, all while still setting monetary policies for the country. You see, in that same month, Emefiele went to court to seek constitutional clarification on whether he could remain in office while running for president. The suit, which listed INEC as the respondent, was reportedly dismissed, but not before dozens of branded vehicles were seen in the nation's capital. These were campaign vehicles purchased for Emefiele's presidential run. The APC campaign center was also littered with posters of Emefiele for president. And to cap it all, some unknown gunmen even released a video declaring support for Emefiele ahead of the APC primaries. But his unsuccessful efforts in court meant he had to withdraw and rest his ambition to succeed his boss. The critics had won. Their victory, though, was temporal, as Godwin Emefiele rolled up his sleeves in preparation for what he was set to unleash on the nation. You see, prior to Godwin Emefiele's withdrawal from the race, something interesting happened in the National Assembly. On the 15th of June 2022, the House of Representatives asked President Muhammadu Buhari to sack the Central Bank Governor for violating the provisions of the CBN Act of 2007. The Parliament also urged Attorney General Abubakar Malami to immediately prosecute Mr. Emefiele for violating the CBN Act. The House had, during plenary, noted that the Buhari-led federal government had borrowed a total of 2.4 trillion naira from the central bank within the first 6 months of 2022. The lawmakers said the fund is far above 5% of the federal government's revenue for 2021, which stood at 3.9 trillion naira. They also expressed worries about the rising debt profile of the Muhammadu Buhari government, which stands at 33.31 trillion naira as of March 2021. The House explained that the debt excluded the 15.51 trillion naira debt of the government to the CBN, already profiled to the Debt Management Office. According to the lawmakers, Section 38 of the CBN Act provides that loans shall be repaid by the federal government the same financial year it was granted. This was clearly an act of financial recklessness and misconduct, and far-reaching irregularities similar to accusations leveled against Sanusi by the Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Just that in this case, it was coming from the National Assembly themselves, the people that have the power to remove a CBN governor. It was a declaration of war, and Emefiele was ready for the fight ahead.
I'd like to continue to thank Mr. President for giving the CBN the approval to embark on this ambitious program.
October 26, 2022, few months after his failed presidential bid, the CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele announced that the CBN had sought and obtained President Muhammadu Buhari's permission to redesign and replace the current 200 naira, 500 naira and 1000 naira notes. As with any new policy in Nigeria, the reaction that followed was mixed. There were wailers and critics that questioned the timing of the policy with elections just around the corner. But people started to get the idea of what was going on when the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, disclosed that the CBN governor did not even inform her of the plan to redesign the naira. But instead of calling the CBN governor to order and question why he didn't inform the Minister of Finance, the president said he was aware and that he had directed the CBN to carry out this act. This will immediately create a split in the All Progressive Congress.
I believe the CBN deceived the president.
Emefiele was not done. The CBN gave all citizens of Nigeria, not minding your position in society, to return their old notes to money deposit banks within 90 days, after which those notes will cease to be legal tender. Now, it was Emefiele 2, political establishment 1. Game on! Just when the public was trying to digest the new policy, Emefiele told them that there was more. The CBN was also introducing a withdrawal limit policy in a bid to move Nigeria to a cashless economy. The policy limited cash withdrawals to 100,000 naira for individuals and 500,000 naira for organizations per week from January 2023. This was definitely game over now. Emefiele had won, right? He sincerely believed that these policies would help the economy by reducing inflation and also make cash in the hands of kidnappers useless. The CBN governor genuinely thought it was a big win for Nigerians, who he expected to be his fans, cheering him on as he fights the establishment, keeping a bulk of all naira notes in hidden places. But to his dismay, he had no fans. The public outrage was visible, even to the blind. It was no longer Emefiele versus the establishment, it was Emefiele versus Nigeria. Remember, from the beginning of our story, one man was suspended for various acts of financial recklessness and misconduct and far-reaching irregularities. Well, Emefiele was about to hear the music. This time, it was from the National Assembly, the people that have the power to sack a CBN governor. The heated controversy and public outrage had caught the attention of lawmakers who were beginning to think of ways to stop this policy from ruining their chances of getting elected. The Senate, followed by the House of Representatives, immediately demanded the reversal of the policy. The Senate mandated its Committee on Banking and Finance to undertake aggressive oversight of the CBN on its commitment to flexible adjustment of the withdrawal limits. The Speaker of the House of Reps accused the CBN of lack of proper consultations before announcing this cash withdrawal policy. The CBN bowed to pressure, increasing the maximum weekly limit for cash withdrawals across all channels by individuals and corporate organizations to 500,000 and 5 million naira respectively. But in his efforts to fight corruption and crime, Emefiele appeared to have violated the 19th law of power, just like Sanusi before him, and wolves were cycling, out for blood. The game was no longer 3-1 in favor of Emefiele. The establishment had pulled one goal back. It was now 3-2. And now, pressure was on Emefiele to defend his lead.
The CBN, they are hiding monies in different accounts.
This is Mohammed Kazaure, a House of Representatives member. On December 14, 2022, Mr. Kazaure raised the alarm over Emefiele's role in alleged missing 89 trillion naira stamp duty proceeds. To put this figure in perspective, the entire budget of Nigeria for 2023 is about 22 trillion naira. This amounts to 4 times the 2023 budget, and the amount is allegedly missing. This report immediately threw the country into a frenzy. Kazaure, who said he is the secretary of a committee set up by Buhari for the reconciliation and recovery of all outstanding stamp duties, claimed that he has valid documents that prove the existence of such funds in the Central Bank of Nigeria's custody. He called for Emefiele's suspension to enable relevant authorities to investigate the matter. But who has the power to do this again? Yes, you guessed right, the National Assembly. But they will also need the president if this was to work. I'm sure these allegations must have had Emefiele shaking to his bones. Because if you were to steal and launder 89 trillion naira, where would you keep such money? To his biggest relief, the president was on his side. Emefiele was relieved when the president, through his media aide, debunked the story as false. But there was a catch. Garba Shehu explained that President Muhammadu Buhari came into office in 2015 to find that a law which stipulated for the collection of a token on banking transactions existed, but was not being correctly implemented. He said this happened because certain characters apparently formed a cartel with collaborators in the Nigerian Postal Service, NIPOST, and were allegedly collecting and pocketing this money. Well, soon after, according to Shehu, a non-government organization told the administration that the Nigerian government had lost the sum of over 20 trillion naira to the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, that is the NIBSS, between 2013 to 2016 in this regard, claiming that the said sum could be recovered and paid back into the government coffers. But then, the consultants asked to be paid a professional fee of 7.5% and were placed under the supervision of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Following the lack of progress in the promised recovery, the late Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, wrote on March 8, 2018 to the SGF, conveying a presidential directive that following the lack of progress and several expressed concerns, the activities of the consultants be discontinued. Shehu further explained that Kazaure was one of those people trying to defraud the government, saying they had regrouped and were employing a new strategy through the lawmaker. But Mr. Shehu further added that Mr. President has not completely ignored these matters and that he was actively working to reconcile, recover, and transfer all stamp duties into Stamp Duty Central account. The question here is this outright denial, or is this like saying, well, the figure is too high but there's actually some missing funds? Which is it? Just when Emefiele was about to celebrate a supposed win with the backing of the president, the DSS entered the group chat. In a rather strange turn of events, Nigeria's secret police unit, popularly known as the DSS, picked interest in Godwin Emefiele's scandal. This is the section of the story I don't want to tell. Yeah, if it's a matter of national security, it's best we leave it alone because, investigations may still be ongoing and I really don't want to mistake the facts of the matter. But I find it curious and interesting that the DSS would go to court seeking to hold the CBN Governor for investigations concerning matters of national security. This is according to publicly available news reporting on the matter. Emefiele is being accused of terror financing, sabotaging the Buhari's administration in the process, and there is the one about mismanagement of various intervention funds. The DSS haven't announced an official investigation into Emefiele and they didn't deny the report either. However, they denied sending agents to arrest Emefiele. I'm being careful here with what I say, but I will link in the description box all the articles and credible news reporting on this saga for you to have a read. Now, it's been more than a month since Godwin Emefiele returned to the country, following his leave. But yet another problem has greeted him on his return. Remember, he had given Nigerians 3 months from October to deposit their old Naira notes. Well, it turns out the new notes are available in limited supply. And this has caused serious dispute between some state governments and the federal government. A dispute that has seen the Supreme Court declared judgment in favor of the state governments, a judgment the federal government has refused to comply with. In my weeks of following this entire story closely and reading all sides of the arguments, all I have seen is power fighting itself at the expense of the common man.
If I said the federal government was frustrating the APC, then I would expect Lai Mohammed to respond. Why he responded to that, I cannot fathom.
Starting with the story of Lamido Sanusi was to give you a perspective of how power games are played. According to Sanusi, he lost his seat for speaking truth to power and for poking the bear. The bear in this instance is the NNPC. That was a grave sin because it violates the 19th law of power. Do not offend the wrong person. Emefiele seems to have forgotten the 48 laws of power, even though everything has been allegations and accusations. My question is, where were all these accusations and allegations 2 years ago? Why is the energy to fight his economic policies only just arising now? Why is this policy to fight corruption and economic sabotage only just coming into play in the 8th year of the administration? And if Emefiele is truly sponsoring terrorism, why does he still have access to the president? The answer to these questions may be found in the 19th law of power. Never offend the wrong person. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.